Good afternoon, all. On behalf of Applied Theatre India Foundation and Indian Council for Cultural Relations, I welcome you all to the third session of first ever virtual conference on role of applied theatre in Indian society. Augusto Boal says theatre is a weapon. For that reason, it must be fought for. Now the question is how to use theatre as a weapon. Here I welcomes Mr. Ravi Ramaswamy from Bangalore. Ravi is a TO practitioner trained from Mandala Center for Change, Seattle, Washington. He has also done his master's in social work from Madras Christian College, Chennai, and BA in economics, sociology, and industrial relations from St. Joseph's College of Arts and Science, Bangalore. And he is a co-director of CCDC, Bangalore. Ravi has over 10 years of work experience in the development sector, working on range of issues like gender, sexuality, education, sexual health, child rights, urban poverty, and urban governance. Today, he is going to present his research paper on theater of the oppressed as a liberatory pedagogy. Over to you, Ravi sir.
Thank you, Vaishali, for such a warm introduction. It's nice to listen to myself from, especially when somebody else is speaking. So, thank you so much. So before I start my talk, I would like to really thank Kaustubh and also the team of Applied Theatre India Foundation for inviting me to this very first virtual conference on applied theatre. Thank you so much. So now let's begin, right? Since we've all been waiting for what Theatre of the Oppressed is all about and also my talk. I'd like to start by, yeah. Just give me a few seconds. Yeah. So my talk today is about Theatre of the Oppressed as a liberatory pedagogy. So before I start talking about liberatory pedagogy, let's talk about what TO is, right? And I'm going to use the word TO. TO is short form for Theatre of the Oppressed. So what is TO? So very briefly said, TO is a creative tool for personal and social transformation. And TO was created by Augusto Boal, a Brazilian theatre director, sometime in the 1950s and 60s in Brazil itself. TO comprises of a set of games and exercises very carefully crafted by Boal. And these games and exercises are now used all over the world by various people in various contexts. Boal was very inspired by Paulo Freire in creating Theatre of the Oppressed. Now Paulo Freire was a very famous educationist and lived around the same time as Augusto Boal. And I would like to really give you a little historical perspective of Theatre of the Oppressed and how it was born. Now both Freire and Augusto Boal lived in Brazil at a time where Brazil was under political oppression by a dictatorship regime. And both Boal and Freire's work and life were influenced by the oppression that they faced and the people faced. And this oppression not actually affected all aspects of their life: social, cultural, political, and economic, just to name a few. So it is in this background that Augusto Boal created TO to embody, so that people could embody their emotions and desires to bring about a change in their life. While Boal did that, Freire, through his work, his most famous book that he wrote, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and also his work with adult farmers, adult laborers, through his work called Culture Circles, he highlighted the need for people to be able to make meaning and also read meaning of the world around them by themselves and not being told by somebody else. So this is a very brief historical perspective of how Theatre of the Oppressed was born, because this is important for the future uh, talk. So now let's look at the most fundamental concepts or principles in TO, right? As you would have known, Theatre of the Oppressed, it's about so there is a word called oppressed, right? So now let's look at what oppression is about. So how do we understand oppression? Oppression exists in any relationship where one person exerts their power and authority over another person in order to discriminate, silence, and to subjugate them. So there's a very clear hierarchical relationship there. Now, this oppression, what is also linking with the oppression is about two terms, which I would like to introduce now: the terms of oppressed, the terms of oppressor. Now, in this hierarchical relationship, in this authority relationship, the one who's subjugating is the oppressor, and the one who's subjugated is the oppressed. Right? So this relationship of the oppressor and the oppressed, of oppression, Auguste Boal calls it as a relationship where there is only monologue and not dialogue. And what is interesting in the idea of oppression is that oppression is not just one act. It's series of acts over years and years of systemic legitimacy of these oppressive behaviors, right? So systems like, for example, oppression is usually seen in, let's try to name a few: political structures, educational structures, let's say like family and marriage. So these structures inhabit authority, power, and thereby oppression. And also these structures, which are very fundamentally built on authority and power and traditional and cultural notions of authority and power, they give this legitimacy for the oppression to continue for years and years. And this oppression which continues for years and years, what does it really do to the people involved in the oppression? One, the oppressed become dehumanized because of the oppression over centuries, because they're not able to really wholly be who they are, wholly be human. They are seen as less than human. So that is one aspect of the dehumanization of the oppressed that happens. But what is also important to realize is the oppressor, through the act of oppression, what are they really trying to do? To hold on to the authority and power that they have, right? So this holding on at no cost, holding on at every single point of time, that also dehumanizes the oppressor, makes them less than human, because that's their entire focus is on how do I make the other person less human through my actions, through my behavior. So the dehumanization happens for both, and that is really important for us to note. So in a TO concept, and also looking at what is liberatory pedagogy then, right? It is important for us to note that in a liberatory pedagogy, we are looking at practices where dialogue is a center of the relationship, where instead of dehumanization, can people be, or are people rehumanized? Awaken the humanized, awaken humanization in people, and also how do we tackle oppression? Through liberated pedagogy, one way is to, and I think it's an extremely important aspect, is to one, recognize that oppression is happening, and two, collaboratively work towards action to remove the oppression. Now, dialogue is a central aspect of TO, and what is important is, I'll talk about dialogue in the future sessions, but these are the larger concepts that are fundamental to theatre of the oppressed. So theatre of the oppressed actually talks about how do we engage in a dialogue, and dialogue is not two people talking to each other. Is not only that. What is fundamental in dialogue is the aspect of equality, is the concept of equality. So for dialogue to happen, there needs to be equality between the people. Now, how do we see equality, right? Especially in this world. Equality happens when there is respect, when there's listening between both, when there is engagement with what the other is saying and doing, and when there is also a movement towards the other. So these aspects are extremely crucial in dialogue, in TA. Now, keeping these concepts in mind, how does a TO workshop actually work? And how do these concepts come alive in a TO workshop is what I would like to actually talk to you about now. Because these are not just theoretical concepts. So broadly, a TO workshop has these parts: the agreements, the games, image theatre, and forum theatre largely, right? So let's talk about agreements very quickly. Before every workshop, we start with a set of agreements. For example, listening to understand, agree to disagree are a few couple of examples that I would like to say now. These agreements are not rules for this workshop, but they are agreements. These agreements actually create a space, a comfortable space, and a brave space for everybody in that space to able to explore emotions and their issues at large in the workshop, right? And why are these agreements important? These agreements are important because, one, they set the tone for the participants themselves to take the workshop in the way that they want to take, in the way that they want to take it, not in the way that the facilitator wants to take it. So these agreements actually give a space for democratic and participative learning in the workshop. So these agreements actually are very important to state. And I think another element of agreements which I would like to really state is this: they're not forced on the participants. So you read out these agreements and you say whether each agreement is okay with the participants. So I like to work in that aspect about agreements. So it's not forced, it's agreed by all. And what is also important in agreements is this, that everybody is bound by the agreements, including the facilitator. Now, after the agreements, we usually go to these games, and the games are very creatively crafted by Augusto Boal. And what do these games do? These games are an opportunity for participants to become aware of their emotions and feelings while playing these games. Because what happens is, for example, all of us know that all of us have also watched kids, right? And we've also been kids in our lives, young kids. We know how, when kids play, what happens? They are fully into the game. Their whole body is moving, right? We all know that. So what does that do? It increases our awareness about what's happening around us and our senses. We become alive and in the moment while playing the game. So that's what these games do. They heighten the awareness of senses. And because of this heightened awareness of senses, what really happens in the relationship in this group? We're able to listen better. We're able to engage more with the people around us. Not just listen to others in the group, but also listen to what we are going through, what we are feeling while playing these games, and also be able to move in this while the games are happening, like this picture shows, right? And because of this, again, the games also engage in a dialogue between participants and between oneself, right? So the dialogue is not, his dialogue is actually happens through the workshop, right from the point of the start of the workshop through the workshop. Now, I'd like to actually come to image theater. Image theater actually is the most fundamental aspect of TO, Theatre of the Oppressed. Um, the games, once a heightened awareness happens and the body is also loosened, body actually tends to be moving around freely. That's when we usually introduce image theater in a workshop. Now, images are about what do the images do really, right? So the images, one, the participants create images with their own bodies, and with that creation of with the creation of images through the bodies, they're able to also listen to and also see themselves from the outside, right? So actually have a third person's view into their own image. And while creating these images, what we actually stress on is, one, let's not try to fix the meaning, one meaning to an image. Images actually are and have multiple meanings. That's the beauty of image theater. So there's no one right and one wrong, and we stress that in our workshops. And what is beautiful is also this, that everybody can create images. You don't need to be a trained actor to create an image. And the other aspect is this, everybody can read meaning into the images because it's the body that is speaking. And the knowledge of the body, the awareness of the image is true for everybody. Everybody understands body. But words, what we try to, which is why we try to tell people to not use too much of words during image theater in the beginning. Use the body, because words tend to hierarchize relationships. The body doesn't. We all can use the body. So through the image theater, through creating images with our bodies, we develop insights into ourselves and of the people around us. And these insights are important because they start a process of reflection for each of the participants involved. And it is these reflections that move on and lead to thoughts and potential for transformation in the next slide, which I'm going to talk about, which is forum theater. The forum theater is an opportunity which is a very popular form of theater in TO, which is practiced worldwide. And the image theater actually, what it does leading to the forum is, image theater actually gives a lot of scope for people to be able to tell their own stories, right? So in image theater, before we move to forum theaters, in image theater, from the embodiment without words, we also move, there are elements in image theater where we look at embodying emotions and stories to also bringing them alive with words. So once bringing the images alive comes with words, that's a fabulous aspect to then move into forum theater, where this, the first part of forum theater of sharing real stories, for me, I think is very critical for a forum play. Because forum play is not taking a story from a book and performing it. And how we work in forum theater is the group of actors sit together, share their stories of conflict, and together, there is no one director in this play, in this process. So together, they create scenes of conflict. So that's how a forum play gets created in the beginning. So they create these scenes of conflict, and what is important is this: a forum play shows only the conflict. It shows the build-up to the conflict to the point of crisis. And why is this important in a forum theater? So when we present this scene to an audience, we're not going to an audience with the idea that we know all the solutions to the problems. we're not, this forum theater is not theater for entertainment. We are actually presenting this play, which was a conflict, in the hope that the audience and the actors together can engage in a dialogue on issues that are important to us. And that is where the idea of the spect actor comes in, right? And that's a technical term, but I think it's a very, very useful term that Boal has used, which is you are not passive watchers of what's happening. Spect actors are people who can take action in the play. So spect actors actually break the barrier between the audience and the actor, and they come into this play. That's when the forum part of the play happens. They come into the play after watching the play and also after discussing the issues in the play, and they come in and replace the person who's struggling in the play, who's a protagonist in this for a term. They come in only if they understand the struggle of the protagonist. Understand it, not because they not and don't and we stress that don't come in if you want to give advice. We stress that because the idea of understanding is then you replace the spectator, you replace the actor, and you take their place and you try out your ideas that you had to try to shift the hierarchical balance and to try to bring about a change. So spectator actually is a very important aspect in theater of the oppressed. And what is interesting is this, that forum theater, what it actually does to the people involved is it creates the desire to bring about a change, because when you're watching a scene which is only of conflict, there's a lot of things that are in your head. Like, for example, oh, I don't like what I'm seeing. I have to change this. I don't like it. I think this person should be doing something else. All these are in your head while you're watching this play. And the actors are providing you the fuel for taking desire. And I think that is important. I think that's fundamental also. That taking desire, having the desire, and then the action comes in later. Right? So all these happen in the forum theater itself. Another, along with the spectator and the actors, another person who's very, very critical to the way that dialogue takes place in forum theater is the joker. That's again a technical term of the person who joker is somebody who engages, who's like the person in between the audience and the actors. They create the joker creates a platform for the performance to be had, for the play to be performed, and also for engaging the actors and dialogue in a discussion. Engaging the actors and the spectators on a discussion about the play itself. And what is really important is this: what's the role of the joker? The role of the joker is one, not to diminish or not to discount any opinion that comes up, because when you're looking at real life stories, there are bound to be issues there are bound to be views of participants that are controversial, that you may not like. But a joker does not discount any opinion. You receive it, but what is important is this: you challenge it. How do you challenge opinions? And one way to challenge opinions, which I think is extremely democratic, which is done in forum theater, is put it back to the audience and say, how many people agree with this? That's one way of looking at it. So put it back always to the audience. So let the discussion happen in the audience without it being your view versus that person's view. So what does that mean then? Which means that the joker is neutral as far as not taking sides in the discussion. But you are not neutral when it comes to having a worldview or taking a stand on issues that matter. For example, if it's bullying, what's your stand? Be very clear. And how does a stand in a forum theater for a joker come alive? it comes alive in the way that the play is created, which means from whose perspective are you showing the play? Is it the protagonist? Then your stand is, I support the protagonist, I am with the protagonist. So all these elements go into creating the forum play, and the neutrality is an extremely important aspect. And we all know what it means to be neutral, right? Because in these current times, when you have very controversial issues, what does it really mean to be neutral? So I want to leave you with that right now. And I want to move to the next, because I feel, and I think it's extremely important that the spectacular interventions that happen in forum theater, like I said, it comes from a desire to act, desire to change what's happening in the forum. And also which is fueled by hope that something will happen, change can happen. And that is also important for us to realize, especially in the current context that we are in. It's very dangerous. I mean, it's very easy to lose hope, and losing hope also, we know why it happens. But I think, what does hope really do for us, right? What does desire really do? Both these are channels and fuels for us to take action, which happens in the forum theater, and take action and also reflect on the action that I'm taking, because I think reflection is an extremely important aspect of life itself. Because I think action without reflection does not go anywhere, and only reflecting and no action is also useless. Both these need to work in tandem. And the fact that it's like a circle, right? Action, reflection, action. And you keep moving and moving on that through your life. So with doing this, what really happens is this of action and reflection, it goes beyond the boundaries of a workshop, and it moves into the life outside of a workshop. So from a real world in the workshop, it moves into the real world outside of a workshop. And that is central to understanding TO. This TO is not only what happens in a workshop, and it's not only about stage and lights. It's actually a rehearsal for life. And all the participants before the forum also, right from the games to image theater and the forum, everything that the participants are doing is actually a rehearsal for life. It's actually for some things. For example, we say that sometimes I'm not able to take a stand or actually act in real life outside. Try and do it in the forum, because this is your space, right? So it actually is rehearsal for life. And so what does it really do? So it continues the experiences, the insights move beyond the workshop and go into the world outside, into spaces, for example, like your family, education spaces, work spaces. And that is why we say at the end of in our workshops that, when does the Theatre of the Oppressed workshop end or session end? It never ends. It continues into your life outside, because TO is a rehearsal for life. It's not only a workshop. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ravi sir, for sharing such a valuable work of you. And no doubt, theatre is a creative tool and very much useful for us. And your speech proves it. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Aisha.
Thank you all for attending this session of this virtual first conference. Now let's have a small break and we will be back at 1 p.m. For that session, our speaker Manasi Mahajan will present her research on applications of storytelling in virtual pre-primary and primary classroom. These sessions are live on ATI Foundation FB page, Insta and YouTube channel. Please stay with us. Thank you.